Hello and good afternoon.
Sarah?
Yes, sir.
This is Marc Ferrari.
The new album, I love Unburied Alive. That title has to come from somewhere. Does it come from an experience of something?
Well, it was a combination, kind of a play on words, because some of these tracks were buried. And they were buried for a while, and some of the tracks were live. So it's kind of a combination play of words as to the source of these tracks.
To go back into the vault, though, I mean, because time moves so quickly, was it an instant like, wow, I remember this? Or do you have to, kind of evolve and go back into the motion that you put into it?
Well, we always knew that these tracks were there. These were the the demos were ones that we recorded back in 1991. So we knew they were there. So we just had to have them remastered and bring them up to the level of today's sonic quality, Yeah. And
thank God it's not overpowered. I'm like, there's so much compression in today's music, but man, I can feel your music on this.
Well, thank you. I mean, we worked with some good producers and we were in great studios back in the day. So that's a testament to those tracks. And yeah, we didn't want this to, I don't think we wanted it to sound like Metallica, level of audio output, I've always been a fan of 70s production because you can hear everything.
Yep.
It's not buried in reverb or other effects. You can hear the instruments individually. And so I like to think that came out in our production here. With these recordings.
Well, that's how I learned how to play music, is that I would have it on a 45 and then I would rewind it, play it. And then, but see, today's generation, I wonder if they do that with their smartphones with streaming, if they pull it back just so they can hear those fingers moving on those strings or that drum beat.
Well, I guess you'd have to ask. I don't do it that way. I'm pretty old school myself. I still like my vinyl.
Yes, absolutely.
But I agree with you there that to really embed yourself in the experience of listening to music. I really just think it adds so much to it. Again, rolling back to when I was a teenager and listening to albums, and you had the album in your hand and you had the artwork, and sometimes you had the lyrics, and you were listening to it on your headphones. It really, it really embeds in your soul a lot deeper than I think how kids these days listen to music. You're really, you got that album in your hand and you're imagining what the band is like in concert. It's pre-MTV, so I'm hoping that we have a return to that kind of listening experience.
Well, you give us the experience with the live tracks, because I mean, I'm that guy that listened to Kiss Alive, and then I went into Frampton Comes Alive, and I always, to this day, envision myself being in that crowd, and I had that same feeling with this.
Well, that's a wonderful compliment that you paid us, because it is raw, Well, there are mistakes, there are boo-boos in there, guitars that are slightly out of tune or hit some colorful notes. But, we decided not to doctor it up too much, and I'm a big fan of live albums too. You mentioned Frampton Comes Alive and Kiss Alive. Those were two huge records for me. And then UFO and Thin Lizzy, both amazing live albums. For a while there, the live album, that was the thing,
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like listening to iHeartRadio, because they will slip in those live tracks. And to me, it's like we know the song already, but when you go live with it, it's like you guys take chances on it when I'm going, yes, I love where they took that song.
Well, thank you. Cold Sweat. We played our instruments. We never had backing tracks. I mean, we weren't that sophisticated to even use them, and again, because most of us, in the band, three of us anyways, were growing up in the 70s, and Roy and Erik were a little younger than us, but this is how it was done in the 70s,
Yeah.
and I'm always proud of the fact that Cold Sweat was able to pull off all our recorded music. We were able to pull it off live.
Did you record it on the tape?
This was definitely two-inch tape. Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
The Cold Sweat era, 1990, was around the time that digital recording first, kind of came into the mainstream. But we were 2-inch tape, so, analog, my buddy. So that's how we did it back then.
It's like this album, it's taken 30 years to put this together, which I love, because that means that it just proves time and time again how precious music is, and it's really like it's either a magic trick or a miracle. Which one is it for you?
Well, it's a miracle we're still alive, all of us alive. And, we did maintain a friendship throughout those years, even though I hadn't seen two of the guys in 29 years,
Wow.
From 1991 to 2020. Now, Cold Sweat, we made our first live appearance on the 2020 Monsters of Rock cruise, our first live appearance since 1990. And again, I hadn't seen two of the guys in that 29-year period, and we had one rehearsal, and we had two gigs, and we pulled it off. And so I think it's more a miracle than magic, because I mean the band, we didn't have any tricks. We didn't, right. We didn't have backup singers. We didn't have tape loops. We didn't have auto tune. It was just us.
Yep.
So I guess you could say that the magic was in our band.
Yeah.
And the miracle is that we still were around, to celebrate this regathering of the band.
I'll tell you what, I would love to hear the FM signal inside your song "Claim to Fame." I want to hear that so bad on the radio that I just think that these rock stations today need to play real rock right now, and it's like it will freshen things up, and I think "Claim to Fame" deserves to be on that station.
Well, I would not disagree with you. I think it's a great song. It's certainly a snapshot in time of what it was like back then in the track might have been written in late 1990 and recorded in 91. I can't recall, but we had come off the road in late 1990 and began working on these demos, because we want our A&R guy was fired at the time, and we were let go with that firing, and so we did these demos, to hopefully secure another major label recording contract. But as you know, in 1991, which was a pivotal year with Nirvana's album coming out, and the grunge guys kind of starting their reign. It was shifting taste back then in 1991. And so unfortunately, commercial hard rock guys like ourselves, all of a sudden were considered passé, and we might as well have had leprosy because nobody wanted to touch us.
I remember being a mobile entertainer, and I'd be playing the music at the schools. And during that same time period, you had your Nirvana fans, but you still had your heavy metal fans, and they wouldn't touch the floor. If the rockers would not go out there with Nirvana, and Nirvana wouldn't go out there with the rockers. But I mean, there was you could physically see the separation between the two different music styles through the actions of the people.
Well, that's an interesting point. I guess it's kind of like oil and vinegar; they just don't mix, But I will go on record saying that I was a fan of, some of the Seattle stuff. I thought Soundgarden were amazing.
Yes.
I mean, to me, they were like New Black Sabbath, and Chris Cornell. I mean, he's one of the most talented rock guys of all time in my book.
Yeah.
And Alice in Chains, another one. I'm friends with Jerry Cantrell and Mike Inez, and I thought those guys were amazing. And I didn't dislike Nirvana or Pearl Jam. I wasn't drawn to them as much as I was to Soundgarden and Alice in Chains.
When reaching for that sound, even though you've gone back into the vaults for this, is there a certain substance that you're looking for? Is it just okay, we're going to run with this because I'm feeling it in the moment of now? I
think it's the latter. I think it's just running. We were always just kind of going with the flow with our band, and we didn't really, I don't recall us like overthinking stuff too much, It was just like, okay, let's get in a room, let's write some music, let's put it on tape. It wasn't, we didn't have the luxury of, spending, months in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't pull a Def Leppard or a Boston, or, an Aerosmith that, may take 6 months to make a record. In our case with the demos, we had to do it really quickly, So we literally were flying by the seat of our pants back then, for sure.
So how many of these songs you still have on DAT tape or even cassette tape?
Well, that's a good question too. There may be some DAT. We may have mixed it onto DAT tape, but I remember these demos again being two inch masters. So the masters are out there somewhere. They're somewhere in a vault, or who knows? They may have been destroyed by now. I don't know. We were lucky enough to have the mixes available to us.
Oh my God, I just can't imagine. I would love to see something like that. Grab the cameras and film something like that and create a show around that. Because when I go back into the stuff that I did as a teenager and I've got that cassette in my hand, it's like, oh my God, because you just don't realize that a moment is in your present place of now. And that's a spiritual kind of way of talking, but I just believe in the past being in the present.
Well, look, if I could travel back in time, I would love to go back to the early 70s, mid 70s, and be a touring musician back then.
Yes.
But we have to live in our time.
Yeah.
But there are certain bands I think that really try to capture the vibe of that era. Cold Sweat, we were really we were influenced, very heavily by Thin Lizzy. Yep. And by Aerosmith, and we all love Tesla. Tesla to me is a band that really they have the soul of the '70s. I guess you could say that about the Black Crowes too. Yeah. But Tesla, we all love that the first couple of Tesla albums we listened to all the time, and to me they're a great example of a band that lives in the now, but it has the heart the heart of the '70s.
Yeah. On the album Unburied Alive, you feature the song Worthless. Do you get to be a listener, or are you still the maker?
Worthless?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Okay. I'm not familiar with that one. Worthless? Is that ours?
Man, maybe I was shot to a different area. Let's X-nay that one out here.
No, that's not ours, my friend. So.
Wow. And see, and that's the thing. That's one of the things that I don't like about streaming is that they will sneak in something when you think you're onto something. That's the thing with Alexa, even with iHeart. If I say I'm going to put in Cold Sweat, I want all Cold Sweat songs, but then they'll sneak something in on you.
Well, I think what they're doing there is the algorithms are suggesting, music that's generically similar,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll have a playlist, and after the playlist, listen to a playlist. After it's done, I hear something new that I haven't heard before. I'm like, okay, what are these guys doing? But I know what they're doing. They're trying to suggest new music to you that is, in a meta database somewhere similar to the music that you've been listening to.
Do you like that side of the music business? Because it seems like that the musicians are more in control now than what they've always been.
I don't mind. It's funny. I don't mind. I like to listen to new music, and I have found some interesting artists. Listening to Spotify. If I put a Robin Trower album on, and it finishes, and they're playing me some other guitar player. Current guitar player that's similar to Robin Trower. I don't mind that. Because it's. I guess this is it's the now way to discover music, whereas back in the 70s, it was word of mouth, your friend, you go to high school and your friend, have you heard of this band? You've heard of this band, heard of that band. And because again, back in the 70s, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have MTV, and this is how you discovered music primarily was through other people, so.
Yeah. So are you guys planning a tour? Are you out on the road now? What's going on?
Well, touring is not the right word. We have scattered dates. As a matter of fact, we're going to be playing the M3 Festival next month in Baltimore, and really happy about that. And then we've just been added to the 2025 Monsters of Rock cruise. So we were on the 2020 cruise, so we're coming back for the 2025 cruise.
I love the festivals because, I mean, Charlotte has got a big festival coming up next month, and it's like, man, but it filled up so much and so quickly with all these performers. But it's like, okay, we got to get you here to Charlotte too one of these years.
Would love to. It's kind of up to the will of the people. If there's enough interest for us to do a show somewhere, we'll do it. We're hoping that Cold Sweat gets added to a couple more festivals this year, and we'll see where that takes us. But as far as touring goes, in the old days where you get on a tour bus and you go out with another band for a month or so, that's not how it's done.
Wow.
With us anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you on that thought. So where can people go to find out more about the band, get their hands on the new album, Unburied Alive?
Well, there's the Cold Sweat Facebook page, which is out there. Certainly, you can go to marcferrari.com, and there's links there to everything Cold Sweat related. But the Cold Sweat Facebook page is probably a good place to start. And
there's a lot of merchandise, right? Because I really encourage my listeners to always buy the merchandise.
Whatever we have left is up there, and I probably should do another run of T-shirts here. That's a good idea.
How many evolutions has the band logo gone through?
Well, initially, I remember, first of all, the band wasn't called Cold Sweat.
Right.
It was called Ferrari, and then it was called Cry and Shame. We tried to use that name, Cry and Shame, and originally it looked like we were going to be able to get that use, and so the art department at MCA came up with the interlocking logo of the C and the S, originally for Cry and Shame. And when we couldn't get that, we were scrambling we liked the logo, so we were scrambling to find a name that could use C and S, and that's how Cold Sweat kind of came in.
I love it. Dude, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on, Arrow. I really appreciate it.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
All right, awesome. Thanks so much.